and i-case yami yaqala boma late August. September 3 yangena i-trial yami, and then bakhipha i-verdict ukuthi I'm going to be expelled a hostel, bangidemote as i-counselor futhi. So lapho baba like, oh bekuyi-Thursday, bathi Monday kumele ngihambe e-hostel. Ngihambe vele ngipakishe tonke timvo tami ngibuyele ekhaya ngidobona ukuthi ngihlalaphi, and lapho i-exam into yokuqala in less than a month, ngathi beyiqala in less than a month, and bengi-confused ukuthi like angathi nyalo sengitobheka because my only relatives are Mbabane nakaManzini, and i-distance from Manzini to Big Bend angathi how many hours, so impossible ukuthi ngidotravela Manzini Big Bend every day. So yeah, and bangani bami lapho like bangijikela bonke like kule case le bangijikela nje bangasangikhulumisi. So bengale case stress case, stress sebangani, and my grades ami nje bekaqala kwehla because bakhipha it was a list of marks ALO because LO kumaqala, so bengithole level 5. And all along bengihlale ngiphasa yabo kuma level 7, so everyone bebangihleka yabo ukuthi like sebamjikele lona sohamba ebhana uqala uyafeyila usanda nebafana, so everything nje way too much. So bese ngicabanga sometimes ukuthi like sale ngiyekela nje esikoleni, come back the following year or nje ngingasabuyela esikoleni. So and then wangishayela my dad waba like give up inyalo, you are writing in less than a month, vele you made a mistake. Oh, you made a mistake waba like utozama khuluma nebase le disciplinary committee ukuthi bangixoshe e-hostel, and eventually abazange bangixoshe. So I had less than a month ukuthi ngidadishe phinde udile ne-depression because tonke leti mfo natentenga at the same time, obviously but depressed. So yeah, my grades are like very low, like yo, like bese ngingasadili ukuthi bengadadishi because i-focus yami yonke bekule case because every day nje behlale case. So yeah, I had less than a month, and then my dad encouraged me to say I should keep studying. Ngizame all my best ukuthi ngipass. So I drew up a timetable yabo 4 weeks. And then ngabhala ukuthi like each and every week ngidoenda this subject. And then I don't know if khona labahlala hostel lapho. Ngiyathi okay now at that time thina nahlala hostel bese ngakavumeleki ukuthi bese ngikavumeleki ukuthi utadishe ebusuku. So ebusuku bekumele utadishe in your room. During the day bekumele ubone iplan ukuthi utadisha kanjani, so it was hard ukuthi utokwazi erumini yakho utadishe nge-laptop babanga umsivo like bekulukhuni, but I had to pull through because bengithembise babami ukuthi I'd try my best ukuthi ngiphase despite all the bad decisions lengawenda. So yeah, I did. Bengitadisha for sure 6 hours non-stop, like every day. Extend 6 hours. Ntambama ngitadishe from 12 until ngiyobhala. Every day. Up until ngiyobhala. So yeah, I put my results me. I passed my 4 distinctions, 2 merits, and then level 5 for LO. So yeah, that was the difficult part yami ukuthi ngifunze e-tech nekuthi when ama-bad decisions nebangani. Now I'd advise you ukuthi babuke bangani bakho. Don't allow anyone actually ukuthi you can't reach your dreams because angathi maybe average 50% student like ngavumeli umuntu akutshele le mvo leyo because a human is capable of doing anything. Now utitshalile ukuthi ufuna 7 distinctions, ungamshintsha lo 50 to a 90. Like allow anyone ukuthi acrash my dreams akho. And then this thing maths lit, I know my maths first students bathanda kutshela ukuthi nawe maths lit awuyenzayo, that's not true. There's something lay preaching calls. If it calls like it's 3 years, if when they're immediately by consideration, when the preaching calls, instead of 3 years, doing that 4. Mara, it's not everyone will qualify for a preaching course. So make sure if you're doing med sleep, at least you aim for level 7 or 6 now for failure. Because if it's below over at risk, so no over level 7, level 6. And now you can still do anything. Now if you pursue a career, my economics, you can do econometrics like me. Mara bafuna level 7. So now that you shall this thing in your mind of level 7. And when you study, topic like topic then you pass. Now when you're gonna fail. Because every topic has how you pass and you still have time, it's still June. Teacher like every day, like everything, but not stuck. Because it's gonna be worth it because to Hamburg University, and university is nice, especially if we international student or SA or US. So I'm an advisor would like lo how many months a few months now, just focus on your books. Everyone. Negative thoughts, even if you're not gonna make it. Prove it wrong, but when you can make it. I'm done.
Thank you, Papelele. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Firstly, I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge being actually amongst you. I am Naledi Matsenjo. I'm also a former UTech student, and I'll be sharing with you my journey as to how I actually became one of the top students in Matric. This idea and notion as to you can accomplish anything, you can be anything that you want. You've heard that before, you've heard that now. You can get 7 distinctions and actually be in the front page of the newspaper. The thing that has always worked for me is to actually remember the hard times. It could either be from a test, a quiz, or prior lessons. I would just remind myself that coming from a family that was not financially liberated meant that I was a day scholar. I'd travel to and from home and school. It wasn't easy, particularly because I'd have to wake up in the wee hours of the morning at 4 a.m. and by 7 a.m. I should be in the school premises. But even though I was so exhausted, I did not quit because knowing very well that my dreams, they were bigger than the long days that I had. I'm sure that you're familiar with the star athlete Usain Bolt, but how many of you do know actually the work that he put in order to earn those medals? He would wake up in the morning with sore muscles, and he would never complain, but go through the strenuous exercises for hours in preparation for competitions. You grade 12s and Form 5s are actually going through your paces. You are actually preparing yourself for the competition, which is the final examination. And the key for you to actually do this is consistency. Consistency, it doesn't mean that you just have to study when the test is tomorrow. Consistency is about you taking the initiative to actually commit. You cannot do sometimes and actually expect amazing results. I remember one time as I was in the 12th grade. As a student who's always been in the merit list, for the first time, my name didn't get called. That was so hard because I knew that I was capable enough to actually be in the merit list, but I was no longer putting in the effort, no longer consistent. And the demands that were brought forth with increasing workload and plus the travels, it meant that I had to manage my time. By that, I mean use my time appropriately. That's when time management actually came in. In order for me to get back into action, and to have my name actually be in the merit list again, I had to set goals. This would allow you to actually have a clear understanding of what your end goal is and to actually know your priorities. Yes, you are gonna lose friends along the way, just like Baphelele said, but that shouldn't stop you from actually stepping closer to making your dreams a reality. Secondly, organization was key. Once you have your priorities in place, you need to make a plan in order for you to execute them. That could be journaling, having study timetable, or it be you having a conducive environment for actually having to study, and as well as the stuff that you need. Once I had time management and consistency in place, even though I'd prepare for a test like a week long, but at the end I'd fail, I'd flunk that test. Consistency reinforced discipline, not only reinforced discipline, but it built character. It encourages the courage to actually develop and the faith to manifest. Thus far, keeping track of the progress that you are making. And in turn, you'd prevail. Yes, my grades were getting better, but it wasn't just about the grades. Yes, getting good grades feels great, but it's something beyond that. It's about what it represents. It's about what you represent. It's about becoming a person that whatever you put, whatever you go through, whatever you get involved with, it becomes phenomenal. Today we are here and we're telling a different story. I'm proud to say that I'm one of the top students and I actually got 5 distinctions. Yes, it feels great and you can do that as well. Life also as a science student wasn't that easy. It was also demanding. Pure maths needs you to have time, like time allocation is really essential. But it doesn't mean that you cannot have fun as a student, you can. But it also means that you have to make up time. It could be that 5 minutes before you go for a break, or that few minutes before a teacher comes in for the next period, just for you to practice that algebra concept. Also, secondly, consultations are also essential as they aim to help you better understand concepts that you did not grab in class. It doesn't matter how your peers may think that a topic is easy or whatnot, but if you do not understand, seek for assistance. But most importantly, we are all familiar with the phrase that practice makes perfect. Yes, someone else would have thought that everything is going well for Naledi, but truth of the matter was it wasn't. Physical sciences was yet another hurdle I had to get through. Even though Mr. VP would jokingly say, and laughed it off, it proved to me that physical sciences wasn't that hard at all. I just had to believe in myself first before I actually put my mind into doing this. Punctuality also plays a vital role when you are whatsoever class you are doing, because it actually provides you, it actually helps you to actually be confident in class, for you to actually grasp information and ask for assistance wherever you do not see, you do not get. Taking notes is also important, reviewing them, and of course, consultations are important, and as well as the use of past examination papers. Like maths, it also needs your focus and commitment. In conclusion, I'd have to say your teachers are the best. I am a testimony to that. With having to be also a deputy counselor to juggle with that and be one of the top students in my class, it shows that you have everything you need. Use your teachers. But 5 distinctions, it doesn't just come overnight. It takes self-discipline, perseverance, determination, consultations, time management, and as well as motivation. Yes, you might have a mentor, but most of us, we didn't in class where I was. But truth of the matter is we all have a mentor. Our teachers are our mentors. One time our math teacher actually came into class. He actually told us of how he actually done well in a math test, and like he topped his class at university level, you can imagine. how huge that must have been. But right now, we had actually flunked his test. Best 40%, the highest was of 50, if I'm not mistaken. In that failure, we could have taken that failure and been disappointed. But through that, we knew that in life, it comes a time where you have to face insurmountable obstacles. But that's when you have to dig deep into your soul for the courage to never quit and to never forget that despite life's detours, you are destined for greatness. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you so much to the last speaker. I'm hoping that sorry. Yes, I'm hoping that Phumlani is already online. Phumlani, are you there?
Yes, I am, sir. Thank you.
All right, over to you, Phumlani.
Hey. Good day, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Yes, my name is Phumlani Nami. I'm one of the students who were at UTech. Well, I'm currently in the University of Johannesburg doing BSc in Computer Science and Informatics with Artificial Intelligence. Yeah, I know it's very long and it's very mouthful and I like saying it, but I want to tell you one thing today, that it is possible. It is possible getting a distinction in mathematics. I did it, and I believe that mathematics is 100% the reason I am here today doing this course. Because when I first started applying last year, I applied, did everything. Registration comes June, February. I remember it was the 3rd of February. I had applied for 2 courses. One was the one I'm doing, and I forgot the other one, but it was something in information systems. What I remember is when I got here, the registration was already full for my course. Both courses I'd applied for, like full, come next year. Like, what? Next year? After so much time and effort I've put in everything. By that time, I had my study permit ready. I had everything, clothing, everything, cut, everything, like everything you'd have to bring with you to varsity. I had my bags with me already. My mind, I had told myself, they told me, I know your course is full, there's nothing we can do. I went to the international house, I pleaded with them. They asked me, what's your student number? I gave them my student number. They looked at my results. I believe that seeing that distinction in my results gave them, I think it worked for my best in such a way, because even though the course was full, I was accepted into the faculty of science. And I tell you one thing, that with mathematics, nothing beats hard work, nothing at all. It is possible. I did it, and I even, hey, my record, nothing beats hard work. You gotta be willing to put in the time. You gotta be willing to make sacrifices. I remember my transfer because I never did Form 4 nor Form 5. I was from grade 1 to Form 3. Yeah, those were my classes, from 3 to grade 11. You see, the transfer, I never did grade 12, which means probably there's someone who was in the same situation with me, who's still in the same situation. The transfer from 3 to grade 11 was a hard one for me, because I felt like, and it was that way, I was a year behind, because even when I applied at UTech, Mr. MP had told me, good to know, you have to start in grade 10. I was like, no, I cannot do that. It was like, you have to start in grade 10, the syllabus started in grade 10. So everything I did, I was always a year behind than my classmates. If I tell you my first mark, you won't believe it. I think my first mark met the first topic test, just a topic test alone. I got 23% for math, pure math. Yes. The people we had transferred with from grade 11 left my stream, the science stream. I was left alone. but with hard work, with teamwork, asking, because I had friends, I had Oami, he had UJ, I had Letting Sandals, also had UJ, Luanda, was not you, people who helped me. It wasn't my efforts alone, it was people helping. You gotta be willing to ask for help with mathematics. And asking help does not mean you are probably weak or something. Asking for help, people respect you for that. The fact that you can say, I think one of the things that motivated me the most to pursue and achieve what I achieved, to be where I am today, was a personal motivation. Okay, I was fine with getting about 60s, 70s, being an average student, 50, 60, 70. That was cool with me. I remember last year, after 2020, after the outbreak, the corona outbreak, we went home, came back around, I don't know whether was it May or June. We came back there. So what was going on was, you are not allowed back to school unless you have taken a certain amount. I think it was around 10,000. So my mom had it in mind, no corona, but that's what I think she paid around 6,000. So when we got to school, I had the two deputies were there, like, no, Magimali short in for me, another day at home. Wow. I started laughing alone. But within a twinkle of an eye, something changed in that office. She started begging for my future. She was like, no, ngiyacela my deputies imali khona ngidayifaka kusasa mbana ngicela mane asale namuhla ihostel avuke sasa attend the class. I was like, what? Someone is begging for my future. Abo imvule kanjalo, I saw the glasses in her eyes, and that touched me, that cut me so deep. Like, yabona i-situation le kanjena ngifuna iphindze ngihlangane nayo empilweni lakhona ngitawubona amakwami acela. Bona it was for the right cause, but the fact of seeing your parents, because I have my mom only, your only parent desperate for your future, that touched me. That was my motivation. I also had another motivation. I'm the type of guy who always builds relationship. It helped me not to see my teachers as people who are only there to give information or whatever to teach in class. I saw my teachers as mentors. I build relationship with teachers inside class and outside class, because teachers are not only there to teach, they're also there to mentor. And I'll tell you one thing, nobody mentors anyone in adversity. It's you and your books alone. Even though it's the nicest place to be, believe me, it's the nicest place, especially if you're in UK, second best, in Africa. Like, it's the nicest. I build a relationship with Mr. Mondla and Mr. Faguta. I don't know if they're still there, but people I build a relationship with outside class, people who could mentor you, who could tell you, this is the right direction to take. And one thing I want to emphasize on is there's something called teamwork. Teamwork. Like I said, I've got friends who were in the same stream with me, who were in the hostel. Now I stayed at the hostel. Who helped me, I helped them too. I'm a group discussions, they help you understand better. Your work rate increases in that way. Like, there's one thing you should know with discussions. Discussions is not about wasting time. It's one of the core, like, Mr. Nzinisa would say one thing in maths in a different way, and Leander will come and explain it in a different way. Now you've got better understanding of that context. My strategy with mathematics was one: work on each and every question until you get it. Like, I knew no man one for about question one or question two, or algebra, my sequence, question three. No one for about 2 Excel. I had it in mind, saying with so much practice, I know which this week, okay, in Tatama paper lang 7 number 8, Mishabo question 1. Paper 1, question 1. Mishabo question 1, question 1, question 1. Mbuya the next week, Mishabo question 2, Mbuya the next week, question 3, question 3. That worked for me. That was the strategy. I had to give in. I know what there are days like on over Ngazuti. Yes. I want to send Katela in Yalang. But even on those days, you gotta keep on working. Time management was another principle I used. Time management, the attitude to participate in class. I'm one of the guys in such a way I would see is there anyone who has a question? The whole class will turn on me. Participation is everything. Participation in class, the attitude. Attitude, there's the idea of changing words, letters into numbers. When you look at the word attitude, it says ATTITUDE. When you change those words into numbers, they sum up to 100%. The attitude of participation. Attitude is everything. I want to tell you one thing. It is possible. 2 years back, I was sitting in the same position you are sitting in. Delivering almost the same message I'm delivering right now. It is possible. Be true to yourself. Know yourself. Work hard. Focus on your goals. Attitude is everything. Strategize. Time management. I'm telling you, you shall achieve a lot. Thank you for your time and attention.
All right. Thank you so much, Kumdani, for that wonderful speech. I hope Tiffany is ready, our former head girl. Welcome, Tiffany. Tiffany,
hello.
are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right. Yes, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Zinita, for the platform. I'd firstly like to start by congratulating the class of 2022 by making it this far. Guys, okay, I'm sure there are newcomers, but very few. I was the previous head girl of 2022. And first, I'd like to talk mostly about leadership and school. You know, being a head girl, it's very overwhelming. It's a position that can tend to make you change, like in terms of your character, your behavior, who you associate yourself with. But always remember that regardless of everything, stay true to who you are. Stay true to who you are, be humble and respectful, because in the end, you are going to need everyone. You're going to need your classmates, the matrons, the security guards. You're going to need everyone to help you in the end. So don't do things as if, guys, like I'm the head girl, you know. In Siswati, they say meaning that respect people regardless of their position or who they are to you currently, because you are going to eventually need them. In my definition, leadership is being influential and leading your life in a manner that other people will want to copy or somewhat be like you, aspire to become you. So don't tell other people to wear neckties on a hot day if you yourself take off your neckties. Things that are like that, only be approachable to people and always be humble. And yes, basically, please be approachable, because you don't want a case where when you walk into a room, people are running away. You know, this is your last year of grade 12 of school in general. So you need to make the best out of it. You need to make memories. You need to make connections, people that you're going to need in life. So it's very important to be humble and respectful. As a counselor, do expect your journey to be very lonely. Do expect friends to turn against you, because now there's no one who's going to tell you that who is hosting the party this weekend. This weekend is your Bashela Bobani, you know, who is running away from hostel tonight. People aren't going to tell you that, but it's okay. It's okay for that to happen. I've always told myself that if you're a genuine person, not everyone is going to like you. So do start being concerned when you mean everything to everyone. I'd also like to touch on maintaining top performance. I've seen the lady, in fact, all the speakers spoke about consistency and being organized. So I won't talk much about that, but I will touch on being motivated. with us, we had the unrest, we had COVID. So it was very demotivating because we were studying and you didn't know, like, will I even write my exams? You know, what will happen? Because at the point in time, I think it was our June exams, where we had to close after writing our first paper. And such things were very demotivating, and we were very anxious about the future of our exams. But it was very important for everyone to stay motivated. Well, I stayed motivated, and it wasn't easy. I had to convince myself that, you know what, Tiffany, you don't have control over this. But I would read quotes, I would listen to praise and worship music. You know, I try to be positive at all times. So do whatsoever will motivate you, because that your motivation is going to carry you further than your hard work will. And also be disciplined. Be disciplined. It's very important to become disciplined, because it's pointless having a study routine. It's pointless being organized if you aren't disciplined. So whatsoever you discover works for you, stick to it. If studying during the day works for you, stick to it. I've heard some people say that if you don't know who you are, then society and the world is going to tell you who you are. So be disciplined, have a backbone, basically. And then my schedule, what worked for me, I stayed in the hostel since grade 10. So some of you are fortunate enough to see how I carry myself. So in case I forget to mention some things, you would remember them. Well, my weekdays, I'd wake up at 5 a.m. every day, and then shower, and I'd listen to either a sermon, a motivational speech by TD Jakes, or anyone that motivated me. Remember Pastor Mike Todd, Sarah Jakes Roberts. I'd listen to those sermons and praise and worship music before I go for breakfast. And I would always go for breakfast because I used to get the energy to start the day, because I would have barely slept that night. So I'd go for my breakfast, to go to school. During school, break time, lunchtime, you'd always find me socializing, because I felt like my concentration span isn't that long. So I really needed to refresh a lot. And then during free periods, I was not confident with my economics and agriculture. So you'd always find me either in Miss Mtembu's office, Miss AT's office, or I'm going to ask for something, or I'm going to the C class to ask them to explain for me a concept. I remember I even went to Miss SP at some point in time for her to explain to me genetics from agriculture. So basically, every teacher should know that, hi, Tiffany is studying. Don't only stick to your teachers, because maybe Miss AT is busy today. Maybe Miss AT isn't in her office, but there's Miss SP, but there's Miss Bembe. So make use of every teacher, basically, as I think the lady touched on that. Then my weekdays, oh, sorry, I didn't finish with my weekdays, yes. After school, I think ended at 4 o'clock. I would rush back to the hostel, make sure I shower, and then rest. I'd either lie in my bed or go downstairs to the grade 11s and just catch up and talk. And then after supper, prep started immediately at 7 o'clock. I'd be writing my homework first, because it usually be noisy. There's people giggling and all. So I just use that time to write my homework. And then I think prep ended at 9:30. Then that was the time where I would stand up and go and chat with my friends, and whilst I'm polishing my shoes, ironing my uniform, packing my books for the following day. And then when everyone goes to sleep, which is about an hour later, the noise dies down, everyone sleeps. That was when I'd have my actual study time begin. And that would last till about 1 a.m., 2 a.m. sometimes. So I would tell myself that, Miss Mtembu used to tell us that in Gubo aina mali, so work, you're only going to be given this chance once. I used to tell myself that I'll just study as though there's no option to rewrite, there's no option to upgrade, because you don't know what is going to happen next year. You don't know if your parents are still going to be financially stable. So yes, do things as if it's your last time. And then my weekends, there wasn't much of studying because I had to attend classes, but I'd spend the day either in classes or writing work, and then my nights studying as well. Holidays. With us, we had more days when we were at home than we had at school. So when I was at home, I would have a study, okay, not really a study partner, but okay, yeah, it actually is a study partner, Tando Shongwe. We used to call each other and study for about 4 hours, 6 hours at night, because that's when our parents are asleep and one is bothering us. So they would use their time to study, to catch up, and with our schoolwork, because it's very demotivating to wake up alone every day. In closing, I'd like to to the toilet, it's seen as though you are just a number, because you will just be a candidate number and an ID number at the end of the day. So give it your all. Whether electricity goes, whether the person next to you collapses, or whatsoever happens, it's you and your paper. And remember that this paper is going to speak for you in places where you won't be allowed to enter. So do everything as if it were your last chance. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Tiffany, for the wonderful speech. Up next is Mangoba Ngomalo, an old friend. I must mention that I met this guy like when we were in Form 1, and then we've been inseparable ever since. If there's one person in this world who would actually take a bullet for me, it's actually this guy. It's an honor to actually have him with us today. Over to you, Mangoba.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Mangoba Ngomalo. And it's my singular honor to join all of you today. I've listened to very inspiring stories from so many of our people all over the country and the world. I appreciate the opportunity given by an old friend and now your teacher and mentor, Comfort Nzimisa. I think nothing much that I would say that has not been covered so eloquently by so many of you. And I'm encouraged and inspired to see that young people in Swaziland are doing such very important courses as the one this young man in the UK is doing. I mean, I've timed myself not to go beyond 4 minutes or 3 minutes at best. I've been asked to talk about living abroad or studying abroad, and what also being a hustler means in the context of today. I want to start maybe by a thing that I just was picking up as all of the other speakers were speaking, that I would like to impact and share with most of the other colleagues that are much more scientific in nature. First of all, I'd like to say that I do consider when you're studying to read a lot about what helps increase your memory. What type of food do you need to eat? I'll give you an example that we do not give as much emphasis around what are the habits that help memory, that boost memory, so that when you study, you are able to remember the things and then you are taught. So do have a look at what food you eat. Have a look at the food that you eat before going to school, after school, and how much impact do they have in your ability to memorize and to be able to remember what you've been taught. For example, going for avocados, berries, citrus fruits, dark chocolate, those are food that help increase your memory. You would want to consider eating them much more in higher doses as you go for exams, or even just to make them integral part of your lifestyle. I also think that one of the things that maybe is not as mentioned as much is the importance of good mental health. I think we live in a day today when we are bombarded with so much information. Our mind is not meant to be dealing with so much information coming at real time. It's your Facebook, it's your Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. This is not good. It's not healthy for the mind. The mind is supposed to pitch at a particular frequency that it must not be disturbed. So I would like to say that keep your mind very clean, keep your mind very focused and avoid things that stress your mind. And I would like to recommend to consider meditation, to consider exercise. Those are the things that are going to help your mind to stay healthy. They don't emphasize this as much at school. Stress, anxiety, and all of that affect your mind, and you've got to do more to ensure that your mind stays clear. Stay very far away as much as possible from Aka and AKA and Zinhle are fighting because of this, and as you're already in the picture, you are commenting, you are finding an opinion. Caspania has bought Mercedes or what, the mind is being bombarded with so much information. Just steer clear of some information. Try to avoid it. Try to avoid the social medias. Not just click it away, but also just deactivate, stay away, and focus for that year that you're going to now. Of course, this links to the issue of using social media sparingly. I think these young people today feel an obsession with wanting to be validated by some total strangers. I think it's doing a lot of damage in the first world. They are now taking active steps to ensure that they protect young children from social media. It has not been as much a thing in Africa, but I think you've got to start to understand that it's a huge concern to many countries, to many psychologists, the issue of social media. So stay very far away from social media. It's very toxic. You don't need the validation of so many people that you've never even met. That way it keeps you focused on your studies. I think it's also a good practice to start to tell yourself a lot of good things. Start to not be negative about yourself. You're not a failure, you're not an average student. As the more you practice saying good things about yourself, the better you are at pitching and getting to understand the higher value that you have in life. I think there is also a part about practicing, mathematics, for example, is a subject of practice, of repetition. So it would be helpful to start to practice those things. Now, one thing that I felt I must just add that is not as emphasized as much is what are the tactics of studying? They are not taught as much in school. You've got to think creatively now around, for example, if you learn something today, you must read it the first night and ensure that you read it for the next 4 or 5 days, then it gets to get into the memory or the memorizing part of your brain. So try to go online and see what are the tactics of ensuring that things get to stay longer in your memory. And those are the tactics of studying. You are not going to study the same conventional way that everyone else does. It's has to be systematic in a scientific way that teaches you that if you learn something today, you read it 3 times afterwards, it gets to be etched in the back of the memory. In the last minute or 2 that I'm left with, I want to talk about the part that Comfort really wanted me to emphasize on, is about how to live a board. I think I want to say this, that not all of you, whether you've got the good grades or the best grades, are going to make it in life. Start to accept that and start to think about it. If you are going to get the best grades today, doesn't mean that in 20 years' time, those people will be successful. Success is not married to good education and higher grades. It is not. It is a mental attitude. It is a practice, a discipline, and a lot of other things. You may come out with very good grades at school, and we may teach you and help you get very good grades, and flamber it and waste it when you go to university and suddenly you're a slave queen or a drug addict and whatever, because suddenly the bright lights of New York or Johannesburg, they have gotten into your head. And then, you become just an example of what happens of a child that used to have so much potential. The second thing that I want to say that you must not think that success is something that's going to happen tomorrow. Success, you may fail today, you may be a laughing stock of all your friends, you didn't go to university. That doesn't mean that that's how your life is going to end. That one thing that you've got to keep reminding yourself is that think back of your family, your friends, your relatives in church, everyone, and ask them, where are the people that were good at school or immediately after school immediately? Not all of them eventually made it in life. So it's important to understand that don't put pressure too much on yourself. If things don't go very well, they may go well in 15 years' time. What is important is stay focused, keep your goals, keep your focus. And the most important part is to make networks. though you may get a good grade, the best in the country, you're not going to end up in the UK, in the US, like any other people. Those are activities of networks. Do keep networks, ensure that you are looking up forward into activities, into events, into groups, into platforms where you will make enough networks. It is those networks that will help you get out of the country, get good opportunities. There's someone who's going to get good grades, end up at the university, learning a BSc and just being average. Swazi. There's someone who's going to get average grade, get a network, get an opportunity and go to the US and end up being the big Bill Gates that we may think of. That's what I would like to remember as you take my message today. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Mangoba. Our next speaker is going to be Fanele Chester, who's the co-founder of the Knowledge Institute. Welcome, Fanele.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Can I get confirmation that you can hear me and you can see me?
Yes, we can see you. We can see you and we can hear you.
All right. Okay, great. Hi, everyone at UTech. Can I see by a wave of hands that you can see me, you can hear me? Khona lo ngasi ubhula tinyosi embi kwakhe. Well, thank you so much for the invitation to come and speak to you today. As mentioned, my name is Fanele Chester. I'm the founder of an NGO called the Knowledge Institute, and I'm also a member of staff working at Waterford Kamhlaba, United World College of Southern Africa. So I'm very happy to be joining you virtually because I'm at work. It would have been very hard to take a day off to come down to your school. So this is actually perfect because we still get the information while still continuing with our daily roles. I was asked to speak to you today about the characteristics of students who go on to study, whether abroad or locally, and who get access to various opportunities. I'm assuming these are scholarship opportunities. But if there are any other questions beyond that or any other topics that you want me to touch on that I don't cover in what I'm going to be talking about, I hope that there will be a chance for a Q&A so that I can address those questions. If I'm speaking too quickly, please just let me know and I will slow down so that you catch all the information that I've prepared today. And I hope finally, before I go into what I want to talk about, that you have something to write on. I see everyone doing this, and yet there's so much information that's being shared with you. I want to see you taking notes. Yeah, relax kakhulu nje. Kanti lana kumele make sure ukuthi nothing misses you because this is very important information. So hopefully there is a teacher with you in the classroom or in the room where you are who will be handing out some paper so that you take notes and just have this information available to you. So there are three things that I think in my time working in TKI for the past 10 years now, I see that separates the students who are able to get access to opportunities and those who get disappointed, let me put it that way, or they go into an area or a field after high school that may not be what they wanted for themselves initially. And there are very distinct specific things that I've seen come up over and over and over again with the students, especially the students who get the top opportunities. There are characteristics that I see coming up over and over again with them. The first one, I still don't see any paper in front of people to take notes, so I hope you memorize this. The first one is resilience. What do I mean by resilience? Sometimes you'll find that a student comes to the Knowledge Institute or to myself and say, here are my results. You know, I've got so many A stars and A's and B's and whatever. And this is what students always say, ngicela ungiphe scholarship. And it's always a very tough hill for me to climb because obviously I'm not carrying scholarships in my pockets and handing them out to people like sweets. I just have information that you then use to apply for the scholarship. So it's an application process that you have to go through. So once I've established that you have to go through an application process, sometimes students require that even if they are the #1 student in the country, that the application process can sometimes be very long, can be very complicated, and can sometimes be demotivating if it's like a 4 or 5 step process of applying. So resilience, what it means here is that it's students who don't give up halfway, right? So it's students who don't give up halfway in terms of making sure that all of the documents that are requested of them, and they will ask you, for example, if you're applying for the very competitive scholarships, they will ask you for EMA reports from Form 2 to Form 5. Then the students will come to me and say, oh, i-report yami yadliwa Gundvane ka Form 2, ngente njani emva kwalokho? Ngithi mina hamba ubuyelele esikolweni la wafunda khona, and ask them to make you a reprint, because if you don't check that box, you've submitted all of the required documents, say pelile application process yakho at that point. So resilience means not giving up throughout the application process, especially when you feel like you have the grades. I find sometimes that the students who have the best grades are the ones that can sometimes be very entitled because they feel like everything should be easy for me. You should just give me the scholarship, I qualify, and not recognize that you are still requesting and you are still asking to be considered in a competitive pool of applications. It's not a guarantee that because you have this grades that everything will be given to you. So I find that sometimes those students get very relaxed because they expect things to just happen for them. And the students who are maybe just below the top students are the ones that work even harder because they understand that it's a competition. So they need to actually make sure that they're doing everything possible to keep themselves in the running of that competition. The second one in resilience is the number of applications that you actually put out. I normally recommend for students that those first 6 months after you finish Form 5, like from January 2023, and sometimes even from December, I'm thinking of the African Leadership Academy, their round one application deadline is actually December 31st, which means that when you finish your exam in November, from November to June the following year, your main job in life is not to say, hey, I'm just going to have a nice life and go and become a slave queen. And even my previous speaker referring to a slave queens or whatever. No, those are the most important months that culminate your high school career, as opposed to slowing down and getting relaxed and spending your whole day watching MSOPs and on social media, as someone else cautioned you. That is the time when you should maximize all the hours that you are not spending in the classroom, but maximizing those hours, going to the library and going to the different colleges where you want to get an application form, or going to the internet cafe and printing out applications if the place is not in the country, and working on those applications early. Some students will come to me, let's take the Taiwan scholarship, for example, which whose application deadline is in March 15, right? So they always open at the same time and always close at the same time every single year for at least the past 5 years. So students will only find out, I think the scholarships are at Taiwan after EMA results are Form 5. Apply. And if you knew that Taiwan was on one of your list of places that you want to apply for, you make sure as soon as you finish Form 5, your Form 5 exams, you are already finding out where's the Taiwan embassy, when does the application season actually open, what am I going to need as soon as the application is open, so that you are ready when to start applying, not towards the deadline. That's when you start with the application process. So that is resilience, and doing that not just for one scholarship or one for your university. I would say a minimum of 10, because remember it's a competition. So you want to increase your odds of success by increasing the number of places that you apply to, than just saying apply at Taiwan. to apply a tech kuphela. If you're a person that needs a scholarship, you're not in a position to pick and choose where you want to apply to. You apply everywhere where it is open, because you find that Taiwan is going to take 20 students, Tech is going to take 5 students, Morocco is going to take 10 students, and yet there are 25,000 Form 5 students like Balago in any given year, right? So you want to maximize your chances by applying to as many places as possible. And it sometimes means you're filling out the exact same information with every different application from Babuta Info over and over and over again. You don't give up. You just do that to make sure you are again maximizing your chances. So that's what I mean by resilience, is really not giving up, just knowing the process and just sticking with the process, because without those application forms going in, there's no other route, to actually get these opportunities. You do have to actually apply. You go through the same process as a person not in their transcript. There is no process because your results are better than another person. And in fact, if your results are good, you stand a better chance of getting a scholarship. You are the one that should be working the hardest, because you've already ticked one box for yourself, which is EMA results for you to get that opportunity. The second characteristics that I see with the students who do real well is that they are very organized, right? So as you can imagine, if you're applying to 10 different places, that's 10 different application deadlines, right? It's not something that you're going to memorize. A Turkey, Bavula 1 January application, Bavala 15 February. At Taiwan, Bavula 1 February, Bavala 15 March, right? And by being organized, it means that you already have your list of places that law funds are on. So if you're a person who is savvy, who uses Gmail and uses Emma calendars on your phone, literally putting those dates on your phone, so that you don't have to remember, I don't want to miss the application deadline, this kind of scholarship actually helps. If you are not that person or you're not privileged, just have your notebook. Have your applications notebook. Don't use it, please, right? Take that exercise book, make it your exercise book for applying. Like on the cover, just open up, list all the places where you want to go and study. Next to it, application deadline. Because once that deadline is gone, you have to wait another 12 months to apply. Once you miss it, you miss it. Or something like that. So you need to be very, very organized. Have the list of places like apply. And if you don't know what those places are, I'm going to cover it in my third point. Have your list of places like apply. I have my application deadline. Firstly. Secondly, under being organized, there are standard documents that you are always going to need to attach with the actual application form. The first one is your ID, right? If the EID, please get an ID. Without an ID, there is nothing that you're able to do in terms of applying either for universities or for scholarship. Without an ID, you can't get an international passport because you need that ID number or that PIN number, right? Without an ID, you can't even apply for the government scholarship. You can't even create the online account to start applying for the scholarship. So you need to have an ID. If unfortunately your parents have passed away, you need to have a death certificate, because there's this one particular scholarship, it's a scholarship only for orphans. So for you to be able to be awarded a scholarship, you need proof that indeed one of your parents has passed away. Or you need the IDs of your parents themselves, especially if you're below 18 years old at the time of applying, which makes you a minor. You need an ID for your parents because you are still treated as a minor or as a person who's not able to sign for themselves. Sometimes you can't I-idea mdala abathi ukuthi yashonaphi. Sekuba inkinga to now try and find all of those things so that they can get along with the process. If you're organized, you know ukuthi takudinga lokho. Nakuvala tikolo nje, schools are closing today, right? Yinyaka midterm break. Take that time to sit down with your parents and and start working on Lama applications to get those documents in place. 3, you need Emma reports as a secondary and as a high school. At a minimum, your reports from Form 2 all the way to Form 5. It's only in Swaziland applying Emma results Form 5. Everywhere else, they want to know what kind of student have you been, not what kind of students were you at the time of writing the Form 5 exam. They want to know what has been your story, especially if you're applying for a scholarship. They want to know what is your characteristic as a student? Are you going to come first year and have the right attitude and mindset to do well? Or are you going to be one of those first year students and not really to be there for the academics? But supplementary exams teacher for supplementary pass scholarship. So they want to see your character as a student, and that is shown by your academic history, not about what you say in your mouth. They want the actual record. So in some places, for example, if you're applying to the US, they will want to convert their report into what they call a transcript. A transcript just has a bit more information than what a report has. It's like a global standard of a high school report that any student from any country in the world would have in their reports document. So you need to have those reports in order to create those transcripts, right? So Emma reports what ne folder nje where you have all of this information ready to go whenever it's time to apply. And then the last thing that I would say you can add on those list of documents, just go through and think through all of the things that you have achieved in your high school career. That's what I call it. So now Form 2, now winning gomish, not certificates. Write that down, your list of extracurricular achievements and your list of academic achievements. So that Nasafik application, I'll know and try to think back. Form 2 Form 3 In addition to listing out those things like you would if you're applying for a job and you're listing your work history, go and find all of those certificates. Make copies. Don't certify them yet because sometimes the mass certifications are 3 months old or less. But if you already have the copies, then all you do is apply but gather all of those certificates that you've got. And if there are no certificates, just write down the list of things. Sometimes you might need a recommendation letter that is not from a teacher. Then you will know, okay, captain Form 2. I can go to my Form 2 football coach and recommendation letter or something like that. So that's under being organized. And the last point under being organized, beyond just making your documents ready and available for when you need them, is you need to have a routine that maximizes what your priorities are as a student. Notice I didn't say that you must have a study timetable. No, because your whole life must be a study timetable, not just Friday, not just the evening after you finish or whatever. I don't have a TV, so I don't even know what are the things that people watch these days. But you must have a routine that maximizes what you are trying to achieve, right? Which means that if you are trying to go and study abroad, in your routine, you must obviously have a section where you're just studying and going through your notes in preparation for exams and so on and so forth. But beyond having a time for studying, you must just have time for reading. Like your ability to speak English well and write English well, especially if you want to go to a place where the language of instruction is English, is very important. And just by going through your coursework in English is not going to be enough. You need to actually read outside of your study books. This could be the newspaper, it could be novels, it could be a budget speech or whatever the case may be. Just make it a habit to read and to read quickly and then practice speaking and increasing your vocabulary. Another thing that I would say you should have in your routine is time to just practice different things. So when you're applying for universities and sometimes for scholarships, you need to write a lot of essays. Kungabi ukuthi the first essay lo ibhalayo ngaphandle kwe-essay yaka English comprehension is your statement, right? Your personal statement. Start practicing writing a personal statement. Start practicing writing essays about leadership and things like that. This is not studying, but it's all things that are going to help you get ready and get prepared for when the application season actually opens and you don't feel overwhelmed. So the last point I want to make is on research and information. As the third and last characteristic of a student who goes abroad. Normally, a student who goes abroad, by the time they get to the Knowledge Institute, most of the time they already know what are the opportunities that they want to apply for. They are not coming to us asking, which scholarships do I qualify for or which universities do I qualify for? They say, here are my results. I want to apply to Taiwan, Taiwan Embassy. I want to apply to Indian ICCR scholarship. At the Indian High Commissioner, right? Because they've already spent enough time researching. And how do they research? As TKI, we have a group on Facebook that is specifically for this purpose, whereby we put information. In fact, we have 4 groups on Facebook. We have a group of people who want to study Lagangwane, it's called Local Applications Group. Of a group of people who want to study outside the country, it's called the TKI Study Abroad Group. We have a group for Emma professionals. This is where your teachers maybe would want to get in there. And then we have a group for Emma high school students. And we used to have Emma WhatsApp groups, but we found that students would sometimes not respect our boundaries and be calling at 5 a.m., panicking because they say deadline. So we opened this Facebook group so that we could put the information there and you would still be able to access it at any given point. So in terms of research, you join the right Facebook groups. You can even have 2 separate Facebook accounts. You can have the one that you use to post Gusi Chiefs Yendeni that weekend and post your funny memes. In fact, someone was saying, Gusi, don't even get on social media because it's not good for you. But you can have a professional Facebook group. Basically use Facebook in the same way that your teacher would use a LinkedIn. Use Facebook as a professional network where you're joining the right groups and you're following the right pages. My Facebook account, for example, I use it to find all the universities that the students are always asking me about. And I follow their pages because I find that they actually put a lot of very important information on their Facebook pages. And then I take that information, I put it in our Facebook groups. But Nangvula, my Facebook page, my timeline is not filled. Banu ufake makeup njani and so on and so forth. My feed automatically is filled with information that is actually useful to me as a person who has to advise students about their careers. So if you already have a Facebook group and it's already a fun one, maybe consider opening a second one just for the purpose of getting in the right TKI groups and maybe other groups that we could recommend and following all these universities and scholarships so that you don't miss any important information. That's the first one in terms of research and information. Secondly, every single Tuesday without fail, in the Times of Eswatini, the Knowledge Institute has a 2-page spread where we write about scholarship every week. If holiday, you will always find every single Tuesday 3 scholarships that we've written about that week. So if you can ask in your school if at least every Tuesday and Emma students have access to it, or Emma copies, and then you can start creating your own binder of scholarships, because even if I apply this year, I'll apply next year, and that can be a way of you creating that library of information before it's actually your time to apply. But every single Tuesday, do not miss the times of Eswatini. We always have very, very important information for students. The last thing under research and information, my preference, because is to put this information on the cloud. And you do that by setting up a free Gmail email account that, again, similar to your Facebook, that Gmail account is just for you to use to keep information that you need when you're applying. Your Gmail account does not only allow you to communicate with people. So let's say in India, but India is so big, I want to universities. You use that Gmail account to email the High Commission to ask, where are other Swazis studying in India? As opposed to waiting to ask that very simple question. It also comes with a free cloud storage system. I'm sure you've learned about this, called Google Drive, where you can scan all this information that we spoke about and you keep it on the cloud, your ID, your reports, and it just becomes a safe place. And now when you apply online, all you're doing is attaching it because it's already available for you. You don't need to keep all of the physical copies with you and risk and it becomes an issue. And also Gmail is great because you can save the important application links. So that Nagos Kasek apply, you just go to your Google Doc, which is the equivalent of Microsoft Word. You click on that link and you don't end up entering Emma links wrong online. If I look through the TKI group for local applications, every day someone is asking, apply a UNISA. Whereas whenever UNISA releases that link once, you copy it, you put it in your Google Drive, and you don't struggle to apply because you've kept all of your secure links for applying in a safe place and you don't have to struggle with anything. So I think those are the 3 points that I wanted to mention. The first one is being resilient, which means you mustn't give up. Applying takes a long time. It's not difficult, it's just tedious. You will see this when you're applying for MSEBEN. You put 30, 40, 50 applications. Same thing with the scholarship. You need to be resilient, don't give up. Secondly, you need to be organized so that you don't miss important deadlines or you find what you don't have all the things that you need to attach with your application form. The third thing is research and information. Keep yourself informed. You don't know where to get information that is accurate. No, what's the Facebook group? Let's say that I will always get information that is useful for me and I won't be distracted by other things that are happening. No, what's your information? You've kept it in a Google Drive. And in fact, TKI has an Excel sheet on Google Drive listed with a list of over 100 scholarships that you can. So now you can get access to that on your Google Drive whenever you want. And when we put all the links, so you can just start clicking through all the links and figuring out who's the scholarship and Disebendanjan. I think I'll end there. Sorry if I spoke for too long, but I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Panele. That was very informative, I'm sure, for both the learners and us teachers. Now, to rush through with our last speaker. She has a pressing emergency. Temazulu, can you just come forth?
Hi, everyone. Ninjani. I see that people are because hi, very few wavy heads right there. Anyways, Kamalam Temazulu, Jengoba Sagashito Comfort, Zulu, funny name. People always laugh at my name, but I'll try to be very brief and I'll just tell my life story because Nivangasi, the previous speakers have already given great concrete advice on what to act on. And maybe it will be more engaging if I tell my life story for people. And can you hear me properly, just to confirm before I continue?
We can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So Kamalam Temazulu, Jengoba Sagashito, I am 20, somewhere in the 20s, I cannot specify. But in college, when did I finish high school? 2016. So it's been a while since I finished high school and I was in your seat just like everyone there. From the Peak Primary School, le speak semakai, speak angatu sinyati ne speak. Nyata speak. No. But yeah, Makai speak, and I finished the Peak Primary, I think in 2011, and I think I was position 5 in the country. Top 50, and I was very excited to go to high school, and my parents forced me to go to a boys' high school, which was the best decision at the time, Bengati at the time. So I went to a boys' high school, and I used to commute from Spigi to Mbabane. I don't know if you know how long that is, but it's an hour's drive every day, one way. So I used to leave home at 5:30 a.m. and come back at 7:30 p.m. So you can already see what's his schedule. Some best travel a lot more than anything. I did that for 5 years, all through my 5 years of high school, doing SGCSE, Nyalongase EGCSE, if I'm not mistaken. So that's where I learned how to persevere first off, and where I learned how to be a very organized student, because umfana lo suke ekhaya nga-5, labanye basuka khona la celeni kwala sikolweni bavele bafike bajike mina bengihamba indlela lenze. So I had to be very organized. That's why I learned how to, for example, time myself on when to do work. Nangisesikolweni benginesipho sekulala nangisaqale high school. Benginesipho sekulala classing because I thought I knew everything that was going on. But with time we fixed that. And lokulala kwami, actually I used to sleep a lot when I was in Form 1, Form 2. And one of the teachers one day asked me, "When ucabanga ukuthi usmart?" And I was like, yeah, I know I'm smart. That's why I'm getting position 2 every time. And always I was position 2, not position 1. And my dad would always ask me, why are you always the first to fail? Basically, he's telling me this. See, position 2 is the first to fail, which was weird to me. But now I see what he was trying to do. So when my dad would tell me these things, and this teacher was like, smart, smart. People are doing better than you. And she even showed me Form 3 paswa ngabani. So Form 3, Form 3 baphuma 97. When sena 80 ban. So that kind of pushed me to do better, and I stopped sleeping in class. So if you think you know, in short, you can never know enough. You can never be too smart if you think that way. Mindset busy. So that's the first thing that I learned, Nanga Poesi. And when I learned that, actually, I started being position 1 from Form 2 till Form 5. I have never been position 2 ever in my life. So that really helped me. And I also listened to my teachers. I think the other thing, but also you need to learn to listen to your teachers, what they teach you. In so many instances. The other thing that I learned when I was at Boys High School is to basically carve my own path to success. Sometimes to compete with your peers, it gets you somewhere, but setting goals for yourself personally and competing with yourself makes things even more worthwhile for you. For example, Nanga Form 3, I was position 1. That boys back in Speech and Prize Day, they used to give you prizes for being position 1 in subjects, not position 2, only position 1 in subjects. So I got position 1 in all my 9 subjects, and I was position 1 in the class, and I had 91 average. The next person behind me had, I think, 81. But the teacher said to me, this is not what's gonna get you position 1, SGCSE. Yeah, just because I was like, I just did my best and I got the best grades anyone could ever ask for. But the teacher was saying the standard is 97%, and here you are coming with the 91. Why are you comparing yourself to the next person? You're not competing with Umpanaka boys. You're competing with everyone else in the country, for example. So I think it helps to hold yourself to a very high standard when you're still at school. even when you finish, it will be the same thing. Now, it's a Form 5 you apply. Double apply nebamflo laphe rooming nabo base you take pen. Double apply nebamfo from everywhere, especially with international opportunities. There will be people from everywhere. So it will help you to hold yourself to a higher standard. Don't ever settle for the grades you have now. Kubang position one you take akufani nekubang position one everywhere. So that will help you a lot if you think about that. Stay in your own lane. Remember that whatever you want is not what the next person wants for you. And the other big thing that I learned, so I also, after I finished Form 5, I went to something called UWC through Waterford. I'm not sure if Niati Ningago, but I want to assume Niati. And if you don't, I'll send something to Comfort to inform you about it. But I went to UWC USA to learn about, basically what UWC taught me is having a well-rounded education, because ekhaya ngiyabona ukuthi nangisesekhaya boys mina bengathi umfana lo good empilweni umfana lo phasako esikolweni and that's it. But in life you don't live in isolation. Phila nalabanye bantu. You want to be not just good in class, you also need to be someone who values community, who can live with other people around you. So that's what UWC taught me, ukuthi ngiphila njani nalabanye bantu. Outside of the classroom, for example, community work that I value. For some people, it's maybe less sport, less tanzago. You can also do that. And I think Nasa Sekaya, at least for me, focus on your books. You can focus on your books, but also focus on the things that you like. You can do both. As long as you're very good at balancing your time at things, you can do exceptionally well in all of that. At once. I mean, pick a few things that you're very interested in and school. It will also help you in the long run. Now, prefer stress the scholar, you can de-stress with those things that you really like doing. So that was another lesson I learned at UWC. And then coming to college, I am currently a rising senior in college and I'm doing physics and political science majors. I've always been passionate about doing physics. I think the biggest lesson I learned before coming to college and now in college, don't let anyone discourage you from what you want to do. Now, when there's something, please make sure you are set on doing that thing. But in your being set on doing that thing, now that's a Form 5, make sure you have a solid plan. I had finally saying the exact same thing. You need to do the work into what you want to do. And I think it helps a lot for you to have goals in life. Now, just to pass, you're just doing things just to do them. Mindset after Form 5, because you don't want to get to a place where you're doing work that you don't like because you were just good at it. But you want to do something you really love so that it's easier for you, because college is cool. So you want to make it easier on yourself. At least if you like what you're doing, it's much more easier for you to persevere through it. So that was the biggest lessons I had in college. And also another thing, please do ask them questions. You can do things on your own. No man is an island. Ask questions from the people who've been to the places that you're willing to get to. Most of the time, I've seen they're willing to help you get there. And then, again, that goal. And I think one thing that has kept me thus far is, maybe it's too much attention to myself, but I do tell myself every day, it's okay, if a quantum physicist, for example, what do I do each day that reflects that I want this goal? Maybe some of you want to get A star, 5 or 7. You should always ask yourself this question every day. Reflect on living in that to what I want to get in future, because it helps a lot to also keep yourself accountable, because self-accountability will be most important than anyone else, than your parents telling you to that dish. Motivation, if iphuma ngakuwe, of which that's why I can't even speak as much, because I feel that the best motivation you can have is self-motivation. Motivate yourself, know ukuthi lokufunako kukuwe, like akukho kulomunye umuntu bafethu. Ikabi le mpilo na uqeda form 5, it's all on you. There's no one else next to you. You can have friends, whatever, but know ukuthi you and your friends are probably not going to the same places in life. You're probably not looking at the same opportunities. So it'll be important for you to carve your own path and be very set on planning for that. So I think that will be it from me. I'd like to know more what you guys want to know. So ngicabanga ukuthi ama questions angangisita kalula. So yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much to all the speakers. I don't know if there's any questions. We'd like to take some questions. Hoping that Dr. Khumalo can also assist the learners if there's any, maybe identify those who would probably want to ask any questions to any of the speakers. I still have my guests online. Do we have any questions? Okay, let me just take a sec. Sorry. Okay, there seems to be a question.
Can you be a bit louder? I'm not sure if it's on my side.
Okay, can I just make a switch? I'm just going to come this side.
Okay.
All right.
How do you manage life outside and in school? How do you separate both? Do you still have a life outside school, or it's just school?
Yeah, I think that's why I was emphasizing on the point of having a well-rounded education. Kumqoka ukuthi ube balanced vele, ube nempilo outside of school and life at school, because I've seen that school can also be very stressful. So you do need time outside of school, like activities that will make you feel less stressed, for example, or relaxed. I have times like like set a time. At least for me, I do have somehow a schedule. There's a certain day of my week where I'm not doing anything and I'm trying to relax and just take a break from school so that I'm energized for the next coming week. But labanye went that differently. And when I was still at school, in high school, I think I used to only study during the week. When we are schooling, 7:30 and 8, whatever. I think from 9 until like 1 a.m., I was doing schoolwork. And then during the weekend on Saturdays, I wouldn't do anything. That was my free day life, I guess, to do life or whatever. And then during the week, that's how I try to balance my school and work and life.
I don't know if there's any of this wishes to respond. Oh yes, finally.
Yeah. So I think there's definitely an over imbalance on less on school and more on other things outside of the school hours. In my experience, my office always has students coming in and out. So that's why I can't keep the door closed. So in my experience, students are not actually aware of how they spend their 24 hours in a day. So one of the exercises that I do before I actually answer that question with them is we actually, remember, they study timetable, routine. We printed out a document that has a slot for each hour of the day. And we had them go through and enter who said this hour and done it, this hour and done it, this hour and done. And for them, it revealed to them actually that there's a lot of leakage and of time in their day because they're not managing their day, like they don't have a routine. And yet when it's time to deliver something, they get very stressed because now they need to find the hours somewhere to make up that time. And I found when we did this exercise at Gone Rural with a group of students that were sponsored by Gone Rural, that in a week, they would spend 5 hours a day watching TV. And I don't know how that's possible to spend that much time. But bangitshela kuse nga-6 kungena in, emva kwalokho kungena in, emva kwalokho kungena in. Banganaki ukuthi yathi sekuphele 4 hours, 5 hours solo sibukele TV. So by just having a visual representation, not a study timetable, of your life in any given day and doing that same thing on a weekend, then it's easier for you to then be very intentional about how you're using your time, just as Tema has mentioned. Now you're spending 5 hours a day watching TV, which is 25 hours a week. And if that's coming up to 20% of the waking time that you have, then you cut it by 10% and take that 10% and do things that are not, because Nala TV, Lama shows are very mental. People get in the shows as if it's real life. Like someone got shot on TV, people are stressed in real life, and it becomes a whole issue. So then trying to limit the amount of time you're exposing yourself to things that add on that stress on you without realizing, and being intentional about doing activities that you know are actually going to make you feel good. Tema talked about doing different kinds of sports now. We had to say every weekend I need to play soccer in order to sort of balance myself. Someone like me, I need to make sure that I'm going hiking or doing some kind of physical activity to manage my stress levels, and not just spending all of it watching Netflix or watching YouTube videos. So basically what I'm trying to say is that before you can manage your stress levels or manage what you do inside and outside school, just put that aside and look at yourself as a human being and look at your 24 hours with all different things going through it, some of it going to school, some of it going to sleep, some of it going to leisure, and figure out where do you have opportunities to really do things that you benefit from and not just doing things automatically without thinking and then running out of time and getting stressed when it's time to find time to do the things that are actually important to you.
All right, thank you. Let me see if there's any further questions. Close down. Thank you so much, everyone. Apparently, with the absence of questions, we'll have to wrap it up. But should there be any further questions, maybe in future, I hope my guests will not mind that I forward them to them. Otherwise, thank you so much for your time, and it's been a success, and I've learned so much myself. Oh, sorry about that. Yes, I've learned so much myself. And I hope it was quite motivating. We really needed this, especially given the past 2 years that we've had, which have had like some serious repercussions on the academics. So it's a very, very tough group to be in, the group that is completing this year. So I'm hoping that they'll get that extra boost and they'll also be working very hard moving forward. Otherwise, thank you so much, guys. Have a great evening.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone, and have a great time.